So Bob, how did you get into music? What drew you, like, at the very start?
The Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Seems to be a jumping off point for a lot of people.
Their first appearance, and I said, wow.
And did you...
I think I want to do that.
Start playing? You're getting to play guitar?
Yeah, I got a little guitar for Christmas, and, been playing ever since. Went to Berklee School of Music, started off guitar, and then got exposed to recording.
Right. And here, or did you start somewhere else?
At Berklee. I find myself, listening closely to the recordings and just being curious about certain sounds and how they get certain sounds. So, it just worked out for me that, Berklee happened to have a, audio recording major, and I said, you know what, I think I want to do that.
Great. And at that point, just tracking, mixing, kind of...
Exactly. Tracking, mixing. Moved out here in 85 and had a few gigs around town, and got very fortunate that a schoolmate of mine had the setup gig here at Capitol, and he said, hey man, there's an opening.
Nice.
For setup, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it just to get in the door.
Great. So when you say setup, you mean setting up the sessions in
down in the studios,
A and B. Yeah.
Making coffee, being a runner.
You make good coffee?
I make damn good coffee.
Great.
And I still do.
Where is it?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're working on sessions, and I mean, I won't say they were the glory days, but the industry in LA they were good times.
Working here, it never gets old. I mean, I every day I drive up, I look at the tower, and I get a little buzz. I'm smile on my face, and I'm really proud to be working here. I mean, I remember driving in LA the night I drove in 1985. The first thing I remember was the Capitol Tower. I went, wow, look at that building. And little did I know, a few years later, I'm working here. I'm still working here, 18 years after that.
That's great.
And, I see things sort of come full circle, watching the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. And then, 30-something years later, I'm meeting Paul McCartney at Capitol Records. I'm shaking his hand, I'm saying hi, and, Eric Clapton, all these great artists that come through here. The CD boom was just taking off. This is like 1986, 87, and Capitol basically said to, the mastering department, production engineers, look, we're a little behind the eight ball here. We need to put out 500 CDs in the next 3 months.
Wow. Okay.
So I quickly went from, doing tape dupes as a production engineer to, mastering CDs in the early days of CD mastering.
The Wild West.
Yeah. So, I was very fortunate that the guy who used to work in this room, Wally Troggett, who was an excellent mastering engineer, sort of, took a couple of us under his wing and gave us a quick crash course in mastering, and at the time, and that's how I started, and it was, it was crazy. It wasn't the, or the early CDs. Everyone sort of, was like, wow, this doesn't sound that good,
Right.
But it was one of those things where they needed to get the product out. We, crash course in mastering, and
that's the industry part of the music industry. It's,
they
need product and business. Yeah. And so you guys were working with like 1630s and the early converters. Like, what was your rig right then? Like,
my rig basically was a 2-track,
like an ATR or Studer.
Exactly. ATR, and we had a couple of really small homemade consoles.
Right.
With, I can't even remember the EQ, if we had any. I don't even think, it was just, we had gain control. And this was actually even before 1630. They were 1610s we were using.
Wow.
So it was basically sort of a flat transfer with just a little gain manipulation recorded onto a 1630, 16-bit audio.
Okay.
And then we would take that tape, go in and add PQ points.
Yeah.
For the plant, and
that was a master.
Create a PQ check. We would listen to it, QC it, and send it to the plant.
So it was really an extension of like it wasn't mastering in the sense that we know it now.
Right.
It was more like extension of the transfers that you were doing, and
Mm-hmm.
and so Wally kind of, as you said, a quick crash course. Did he give you anything in terms of the? I guess he wasn't preparing you for the business as it is now, but is there anything you remember him sort of teaching you that has stuck with you? Because it's something I'm fascinated by, is the idea in the business now that a lot of kids coming up don't have mentors. They don't ever get to see somebody great do what they do. They just kind of are on forums, they're reading magazines and figuring it out at home with an iPad or a laptop.
I mean, probably his best piece of advice was don't do too much.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Still stands today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, less is more in this world, and actually in any part of the recording business, I think less is more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's like, you know, number one, get the levels consistent, and you know, don't do too much. I mean, because in those early days, we were basically going off the EQ'd production copies.
Right.
You know, just to sort of help things along a little bit.
Sure.
You know, they didn't want these young kids, you know, like, hey man, +8 at 16K is awesome. Listen to that. You know.
Right.
Yeah, and it does develop your ear, you know, like, all right, you know, we're getting all the levels consistent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at least try to make it a consistent listening experience.
Sure.
So
give me an idea of how your typical chain. I mean, I know there is no typical chain because you respond to the track, but what's in line? One piece I wanted to ask you specifically about was the Capital mastering compressor that was built in-house, designed and built in-house here. So I guess that gets a run out every once in a while. Yeah,
that's definitely one of my go-to compressors. It's incredible. It sounds really good. For a valve compressor, it's incredibly punchy. It's a bit more of an in-your-face sort of sound, which, you know, again, you can't really use that as much certain program material, especially, you know, with some of these older catalog things.
Sure, it's not appropriate.
It's not appropriate.
Yeah.
But, you know, that being said, it's very, very musical, and you know, it sort of glues things together really nicely.
This is an Augsburger room, am I right? Was this designed by George Augsburger?
I believe it was.
So you work. You have two sets of speakers. You've got your mains, soffit mounted mains, and the PMCs, the AML2s. When did you get those?
I got those year and a half. Has it been
something
like that? Yeah. And
I couldn't remember. I was asking genuinely.
Yeah,
I know. I put them there, but I
can't remember what I ate last night.
Sure.
But, Al Schmidt originally had these.
That's right. Yeah, he was checking them out in B.
And I came in and was saying hi one day, and he was playing something, and I just was like, "Wow, what are those?" You know, and had a listen, and I was like, "Man." And he was nice enough. Hey, Bob, do you want to try them out? And I'm like, hell yeah. So
and
they never left. Yeah, he never. I think he asked for them one time, but I think he just realized how much I love these things.
He didn't want to break your heart.
He didn't want to break my heart anymore. I'm like, because the time he did take him, I'm like, Al, please, you know.
He's a kind man.
He was a very kind man and generous.
And he's
a pretty good mixer.
He's got something going on. I think he'll go places.
Yeah, he's got a future.
So, Bob, I want to thank you for taking the time out of a busy day. You're working on Huey Lewis again today?
Yeah.
So we appreciate you taking the time, and there's a lot of exciting things happening at Capitol here. They're bringing a new mastering room, a new lathe online shortly. They've renovations in A. It's been a crazy week here with the Oscars. They just did the pre-records and the live. The orchestra for the Oscars was actually in the building here and sent by fiber optic to the venue. So lots happening at Capitol. We're really glad to have these guys as partners and have PMCs in the building, and we hope it'll be a good partnership going forward. So thanks again, Bob, for taking the time, and watch out for more videos on our website and Facebook page.